The views and opinions expressed on the cap are those of the hosts. They do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of OldMilk Media. Any opinions stated aren't intended to offend anyone. On this episode of the Cap Podcast, we react to Wham by Lil Baby. Welcome back. Happy New Year. This is episode 600 of your critical but accurate tour through hip hop, the Cat Podcast. We are your tour guides. I am Nate Sperlin. That is Taylor McLeod. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever else you might be tuning in. Feel free to go ahead and join the conversation by leaving a comment, liking this video, and subscribing to the channel. That being said, I already said Happy New Year. And also, because we're filming this on January 4th, Happy Derrick Rose Day. Derrick Rose has been announced that he's gonna have his jersey retired by the Chicago Bulls, which is 1000% deserved. I'm wearing my Chicago Bulls St. Patrick's Day short sleeve jersey for those who remember the short sleeves. Yeah, Taylor, how are you doing today?
Good. Two things. My first ever tweet was about Derrick Rose hurt and getting hurt that season, 2012.
Oh, okay.
First ever tweet was D Rose is hurt again because he had been dealing with some injuries. So that was my
Yeah.
first ever tweet. And then second, man, I switched from glasses back to contacts so I can wear like stupid sunglasses again, which is incredible. I'm so
We're
excited.
we're about to see the craziest fits from Taylor all season, and I'm very excited for that. Honestly, I didn't expect us to have to start season 6 so soon, but when you have a big name like Lil Baby dropping,
I know we
um,
got we got multiple things coming this month too.
yeah, we don't really have a choice. So that being said, let's get straight into the album. Like I said, on this episode of the Cat Podcast, we are reacting to Wham by Lil Baby. The album is 15 tracks, 41 minutes long. It features Young Thug, Future, Glorilla, Rod Wave, Rilo Rodriguez, Travis Scott, and 21 Savage. Once again, feel free to join the conversation by leaving a comment in the comments below. Taylor, what was your first reaction to Wham by Lil Baby?
Yeah, so I think in order to give my first reaction, like there has to be some context. And you and I have talked about it before on our last Lil Baby review. I think there was a time, like you said, off camera, probably around 2020, when people were really like looking at Lil Baby as potentially like the next like number one. Like they were trying to figure out the new big three. You know what I mean? Because that was the time when like people were talking about like Lil Baby, like Jack Harlow. You know what I mean? Like these
Hmm.
people as like the new big three. Who's number one? Saying Lil Baby's like the new Lil Wayne. And I think that was maybe lazy because it was just like the Lil. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I think that was part of it. And I won't say that I was necessarily bought into it, but I was definitely like, yeah, Lil Baby's on a trajectory. Like if he keeps going at the pace he's going, then he's definitely going to be one of the biggest and best, right, in the genre. And then he drops the album in 2022, right? Was it end of
Yeah.
22 or
20 it
beginning
was
of 23?
2022. It was
So
2022.
and I think you and I both liked it, but it was relatively one dimensional, and that's where like people started to kind of turn on things, and it was like every song sounds the same, it's one dimensional, this, that, this, that, this, that. So that's the context coming into this album. I think we knew early on that Young Thug was going to be here, which is definitely like an exciting thing, and Young Thug delivers on Dumb and Dumber. But my first reaction is like unfortunately I'm relatively underwhelmed.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm not that surprised that I'm underwhelmed, and we'll get into it because I think if you've been watching what Lil Baby's been saying recently, like for me at least, like it kind of like set a tone that I expected for a project like this. I think the first two songs are great. I think the last two songs are great, which can almost trick you into feeling like everything is better than it might be.
Mhm.
Um, but overall, like my first reaction after a couple listens is like Lil Baby's incredibly talented. He knows how to make good music, but I think that there are points here that feel relatively uninspired. And for me, because I like Lil Baby, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt and including context when I listen to it that I might not give to someone else. But that's how I kind of feel. Like I think there's just points on here that are relatively cookie cutter and a little uninspired, which is disappointing and underwhelming, but there are spots in here that I'm definitely, enjoying.
Yeah. I feel like I have to start with just adding some context about what's going on, what I feel like is going on in hip hop, and what I feel will continue to go on in hip hop, in 2025 being the political climate, how everything is, just how life is for like Americans, and how that relates to hip hop. I feel like last year, Kendrick Lamar, a lot of West Coast rappers, but also thinking about it after I wrote this down, like also rappers like 21 Savage, rappers like I don't know if Doechii really counts as West Coast because she is like she's from Florida, but like Rod Wave is another example. Gunna is another example. They expose the need for hip hop to return to a message. Like the message doesn't have to be like a societal commentary like Kendrick does all the time. Like Gunna didn't really have like on his album, he didn't really have many societal things to say. It was just more like personal growth things. Like I like for example, today I did good. I didn't
Yeah.
do this, I didn't do this. I did this, I took care of myself, etc., etc. That's a message. That's a song with a message. Um and honestly, we have to get back to appreciating art for what it is and holding art to a standard. And art without a message is just really just slop. It's supposed to trigger an emotion out of somebody, point out a contradiction, make people think. And there's literally like millions of ways to do that as we've seen over the course of history. Even today, when you look at like a TikTok can be art, music can be art, movies can be art. Like there's so many different genres of art going on right now. But at the end of the day, it needs to make the person who receives the art feel something or think about something. I feel like Lil Baby in 2020 when he released the bigger picture and then quickly retreated from doing that, he had a chance to evolve and have a societal message in his music. But like I said, he retreated from that, which is fine because you don't have, like I just said, you don't have to have a societal message in your music. It could just be an overall message of like, yo, like keep trying to improve in this area, improve in this area. Um, I could go on and on and on. But with that, I think if he can still have a message that his core fan base, which would probably be people in the South, people in the streets, can relate to, then Lil Baby will be fine. I think that he still had a chance to make that type of music. Um, and make it and but the question is could he make it relatable to people. You see Lil Baby in the interviews that you mentioned talking about how it's harder for him to rap now because he has to essentially think twice about everything he raps about, and that's concerning to me, because how relatable can Lil Baby be when he's in a different position than most of his core fan base. And now he's rapping about a luxurious lifestyle that a lot of his core fan base can only dream of. So, that being said, what is the message that Lil Baby is going to give us either throughout the album or from song to song? And unfortunately, there really isn't a message there at all. It feels like Lil Baby views music as a job instead of a passion. You could tell throughout the album, there's like no really very few moments of passion from Lil Baby, very few moments of him of it being obvious that he's enjoying what he's doing. It seems like he's just putting rhymes together just to put rhymes together and just put out music. So going on to my expectations now, it's been 2.5 years, like I just said, since Lil Baby released an album. And I feel like for Lil Baby and the type of music that he makes, 2.5 years, obviously other things have been going on. But those things going on could help add to what I'm trying to get from this album, which is the feeling that 2.5 years of work went into trying to perfect this album. And I do not get that feeling at all. I expected Lil Baby to beat these allegations of him falling off by countering the narrative that his sound is one dimensional, trying different things and stuff like that. Very few moments of that on this album here. Disappointing. And I also expect him to be able to, because one of the issues that I do agree with his last album was the songs were good, but if you take one out, can it stand on its own? And the answer is probably more times than not no. So I expect them to be able to make music that can come together as a album and be cohesive, but at the same time, if you pull it apart, does it stand on its own? And I don't really feel like he's done that here either. Um, I don't really like the name of the album either. But the cover art, Lil Baby for his last three albums has had three really, really good cover arts. When you think about My Turn, then It's Only Me, then now Wham, like those are three really good cover arts. So I will give him credit for that. Um, But overall, I don't come away from this album feeling like Lil Baby loves rapping. It kind of feels like this is his job, this is his 9 to 5, and the way that everybody else has 9 to 5s, it could get monotonous. It's just like a repetition, like, okay, I'm just doing this just to survive, et cetera, et cetera. And hip hop isn't really supposed to feel that way. Music isn't really supposed to feel that way. And it's disappointing that that's what has come out of a 2.5 year wait.
Yeah, and I definitely hear, what you're saying, and I don't even disagree, right? Like I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I think one of the things that we run into, and I feel like every rapper who reaches like superstar status, right, they talk about the same thing, right? And I think the message here on this album is like you go from, like he says it a bunch of times, like unimaginable, like terrible conditions, right? Growing up, doing whatever you need to provide for yourself, provide for those around you to survive. And then you get to a point where all that is maybe not in the past, but it's not how you're living anymore, right? Because of what fame and money and success has brought to you. And then you get to a point where everyone around you expects like everything from you at some point, and then and that, like, the interview that we keep referencing is him talking to Lil Yachty about how he feels like he can't necessarily rap every part of his real life like he used to, because you see like what happens to, like, I mean, we saw it with one of the biggest rappers in the world, like Young Thug and Gunna. They get caught up and go to jail because of whatever happened. But then you have like lyrics that are coming out in these trials that's like, oh well, you said this and you said that. And I think that's what Lil Baby was alluding to when he was talking to Lil Yachty. And so on that front, like, it's definitely disappointing to hear that he feels like he can't rap the same way anymore. But I think it also, like, we see this with all these rappers that get to a certain point um of success, when they get the platform that they, whether they wanted it or not, right? Because like when Lil Baby was coming out, like those like mixtapes in the beginning, like he was the hungriest rapper. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, especially when him and Gunna were linked, like it was like Gunna was like almost like the cool factor there,
Mhm.
right? Like he was like he's gonna, right? He's gonna like skate on everything. But then Lil Baby would come on, and you're like, it was like, in the word I love to use for certain rappers, like Future, I use it, and I used in a Lil Baby in a way like is like relentless, right? Like
Mhm.
younger Lil Baby was like relentless, and it was like a, like, okay, if he keeps on this pace, then like it's undeniable what he's doing, right? And I think it's at a point now where, like you said, it does become a job, right? For better or for worse, it does become a job, and it, especially if you have those feelings on the side of like, is this gonna get me? Is this gonna like ruin my life if I keep
Mhm.
doing it this way? And so do I need to change things? But also, like, on the last song, um, Streets Colder, he says like the fans are waiting and he has to like come deliver for them. And it's like, but it's one of those things where it's like, if the fans are waiting and you feel you have to deliver and you deliver this body of work, and then fans turn around and say, oh, well, I didn't like that. Like, that seems like a impossible position to deal with. Obviously, like you said, there was a long period of time and you would hope that you can navigate through that muddiness and figure it out. But on the same token, I think Lil Baby has always been very open, like in interviews and in speaking, not in his music, but in real life, about like the nastiness that comes with like, being one of the biggest rappers out. And I think there's like a couple ways that people deal with it. Like you look at like a Kendrick, right? Like Kendrick like got very into his like very like elevated art
Mhm.
space, right? And then like someone like Drake, you have him where he's like, okay, yeah, I'm like the hottest out now, but I'm trying to be like the best ever, right? So I feel like there's these paths, like there's certain ways to succeed, and I don't know if Lil Baby has chosen
Yeah.
one of those paths, right? Like I think that, and I think he says it, right? I don't think it's something he's hiding. I don't think it's like he says it, and he's like, like you get to a certain level, and then everyone is either trying to get something from you or trying to get you, and then you almost get to this point of like, all right, like, do I keep going the way I was and potentially, like I said, ruin things, or do you, figure it out? And I still like believe in Lil Baby, right? Like
Mhm.
I think at a certain point, we say this with a lot of artists, like there's obvious talent, right? It's not like he can make good music, right? There's good songs here. I just think it's like that, like, what way are you gonna go? Right?
Yeah.
Like Jay-Z. Jay-Z was like, he gets to a certain point and then he's like, I'm gonna retire. You know what I mean? Like he dropped the Black Album, was like, I'm out of here. Obviously it that didn't last, and he's dropped a lot of music since and been a fixture since. But it's like I think it's difficult at that point, and but it can be disappointing for fans, right? It can be disappointing when you get to a point, and it's like I think I think another thing here when you step back out of that like super introspective lane. I think like the rollout for this was pretty quick, pretty rushed. Like it
Yeah.
was like, and so you don't get that anticipation level of like, oh, Little Baby's dropping, Little Baby's dropping. It's like what was it like a month rollout pretty much, and
Yeah.
you don't even get like the press tour anymore.
But
You
I
don't
don't
get like the
sorry, I don't think that would have existed in the first place though, because like we had just experienced borderline 2 years of everybody saying that Lil Baby's washed. So I feel like if you lengthen that press tour, that it just invites more evidence for people who are looking for reasons to say that Lil Baby is washed, to say Lil Baby's washed, I
well,
feel
and
like.
the thing is though, and this isn't new, right? It's just on
Mhm.
the internet now, so it's like we see it every day. Like everyone wants everyone to be watched. Like people get like people, like every it's that saying. It's like everyone's like rooting for you to get there, but once you get there, like everyone's rooting for you to like fall off that spot. And I
Mhm.
think that that's the case here. And I think where like you brought up Lil Uzi, I think the difference there is like Lil Uzi is like unapologetically himself
Yeah.
or themselves on every project, right? So like we get Eternal to Take Two, right, this year
Mhm.
or last year.
Well, last year, basically
Yeah, yeah,
last year, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we
Like
just started.
and there's people who are like, oh, like Lil Uzi's washed, but it's him. It's like Lil Uzi though, right? And so
Yeah.
like I still go back to songs on that, and I'm like, yeah, this is Lil Uzi though. Like,
Mhm.
and I think that like the hunger is what always like was so like drew me to Lil Baby
Mhm.
to be like that relentless, like presence. And then you get to a certain point. It's not to say it's like a complacency. It feels almost like a hesitation to continue to be that way.
Yeah. I feel like to the Lil Uzi comparison, I feel like I don't feel like that's a. I feel like with Lil Uzi's last album, Eternal Take Two, yeah, like to his standards, I called it trash and all that. But like the songs that I like that are the redeeming qualities on the album, like Chill Bay, Goddard Song, et cetera, I'm still like I played those yesterday.
I
So
did too.
like there's still redeeming qualities to that album. I don't really see any redeeming qualities to this album at all. Like I feel like I just feel like Lil Baby might be in the same category as Roddy Ricch, where you drop one great album and then everybody anoints you as like this person who's supposed to be the greatest of all time, when in reality you really never should have been in that position in the first place. Like it's just like this is the second straight album where it basically feels like it's one dimensional and it's the same thing. Like if you take a lot of these songs and you put them with a lot of the songs from the last album, it it's just the same album basically. And it's like you can't there has to be something there where you can hang your hat on and be like, this is what I'm great at. And I know for a fact that very few people can get to where I can get to in this specific thing. For Lil
Yeah,
Uzi, it's his versatility. For Future, also his versatility. For Kendrick, it's his rapping ability, versatility, et cetera, et cetera. For Drake, it was his versatility. It was also his rapping ability. Like all the people that we would put Lil Baby in this cat, Young Thug, versatility, straight up.
yeah.
So, but for Lil Baby, like he can put word he can rhyme well, sure, that's the basic level of rapping, but is there storytelling that, like, for example, when I think about storytelling, still King Von, it was clear he had a special talent for storytelling, and that's why when he was alive and making his run, it was clear why he was allowed to make that run, because of his talent for that. For Lil Durk, I guess it's kind of like maybe Lil Durk would probably be in the same category as Lil Baby, but I think Lil Durk has more versatility than Lil Baby because he
Well, a
does
little bit,
have
yeah.
like
And
the
he has
the
like a decade
yeah, he has a
of it.
decade
You
also.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he
So
broke he helped break a movement, right, in
yeah,
Chicago.
yeah.
And with Lil Baby, he was like the young like up and comer that Thug and Future were like, no, this is like our young guy.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's almost like when a team gets like a new like young guy off the bench who just
Hmm.
goes and gets buckets, right? Like you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's like, yeah, like at some point, like sometimes it was like when Jordan Poole was like really balling, and it
Hmm.
was like, yeah, like we're just gonna clear out and he's gonna do his thing, but like ultimately, like the team is still like the team.
Yeah.
And I think Lil Baby's at a point where he is like the star of his own world now, and
Yeah.
it's not so much like he's like our young hungry guy who's gonna like come through like killing, and it's I think there's like a struggle to what to do with that.
Yeah. I, I just I just don't see like because a lot of these songs also it's like he's jumping from. topic to topic, there isn't really like a focus of anything.
Yes.
Like there isn't really like it's just nothing there for me as a fan to be able to either relate to or really, really like have a respect for.
Can here
It
let me can I ask you a question?
go ahead.
If I almost wish, and I wonder if you feel the same,
Mhm.
that Dumb and Dumber just came out by itself, like right now.
Here's the thing, and I don't like Dumb and Dumber. I feel like it's the exact representation of what this album is, one dimensional. You have two of the most versatile artists in the world, and you basically just ask them to recreate your own flow on their own verses. And there's no hook connecting it. Like I'll give it a listen because I love Young Thug and I love Future. But outside of that, is there really anything does this connect to like relationships by Young Thug and Future? Like, is that on the same level? Because we've seen Young Thug and
Right.
Future, they have a whole tape together, and they have plenty of collabs where they're both doing whatever versatile thing they want to do, and it takes it to the next level. And
Yeah.
here, it just seems like they're just contained in this box where it has to sound like they're basically. It kind of feels like they're trying to do their own little baby impression on this song, and it doesn't really do anything for me. And I feel like this is probably the best opportunity for us to start going song by song.
Yeah.
And the one thing I think is I feel like Lil Baby tries to like change his sound like on the margins, but overall, it's not enough to make me feel like Lil Baby's growing. Like 21 Savage, like when you look at 21 Savage from Savage Mode to 21 Savage to American Dream, those are two different rappers.
Yeah.
Those are like that's two different experiences. 21 Savage from Savage Mode till American Dream, he learns how to be melodic. He picks different types of beats. All the beats don't sound the same. He works with different producers. And the thing that he got with you could tell he learned a lot from making that album with Drake. You could tell he learns a lot from with Metro. He's on IG all the time singing R&B and stuff like that. There's so many influences for 21 Savage, and you could see that these influences are now being transferred into his music for him to grow. I don't
Yeah.
see any type of like growth here at all. Lil Baby's still working with the same producers that he was working with like 5 years ago, 6 years
Yeah.
ago, which is okay. But there has to be a new voice, a new sound, a new something. Um, that being said, I think the main song that shows a change in the sound is Listen Up. And that's one of the better songs on the album because there isn't really much of a Little Eight's, I mean, not, excuse me, Lil Baby's signature sound, you would probably say is like heavy 808 beats. And I'm just
Yep.
going to rap over these heavy 808 beats. There isn't really much of 808 on Listen Up at all. And that's what makes that song different. And if he was able to come through with a album that had songs that differentiated from what we expect from Lil Baby, then okay, even if it doesn't sound like the best, it's like, okay, this is still growth. I can accept that.
Yeah.
But he does listen up. And then the next song is Dumb and Dumber. And that song is pretty one dimensional. FU times two is one dimensional. I Promise that's the other bag that Lil Baby has, which is that melodic bag, which I wish he would lean into more because I do like that song. Redbone with Glorilla is that doesn't fit well together. By Myself, it kind of feels like Lil Baby's there and then he's just out. And then Rilo Rodriguez and Rod Wave carry the song. And I like Rilo Rodriguez and Rod Wave together, and that's why I like that song because they also have Jersey Numbers on Rod Wave's last album, which is one of my favorite songs off that last album. So I like
Yeah.
that pairing together. But like, am I listening to this because of Lil Baby? No, I'm listening to it because of the pairing of Rilo Rodriguez and Rod Wave. And then you go from By Myself, and then I go from By Myself all the way down to 13 Outfit, and there's no song there that sticks with me at all. Like
Yeah.
none.
No, I mean,
Um,
I feel similarly. I like So Sorry, right? Because
yeah.
you
So
get
Sorry
more
is good.
melodic. You get more
Yeah.
melodic there, and you get like a very like real life, like Lil Baby like wants to be better for this person, but like
Mhm.
whether it's like they choose not to or he chooses not to or can't like be better, you know what I mean? But it's like and that's my favorite Lil Baby because I think and the reason I give him the benefit of the doubt, right, is because he's shown so many times that he is like very cerebral and very intelligent and very like he thinks about all this. And so part of me sometimes like when we get an album like this, almost like equates it or chalks it up to like stubbornness,
Mhm.
right? You know what I
Stubbornness,
mean?
yeah, stubbornness might be the best way to go because like
Like
if you
stubbornness.
you spent 2 years, and I know like sure you aren't on the internet, but someone around you is on the internet seeing like everybody's calling your album one dimensional.
Yeah.
And it's like for 2 years and you never heard once someone calling your album one dimensional. That's I can't believe that. So I have to think that Lil Baby somewhere heard some of the criticism and just chose, I'm just gonna do what I do. And that's clearly not gonna work because Twitter hates his album. I personally don't like it as much. Stuff with Travis Scott, terrible. That's a bad song.
I mean, you know how I feel about Travis features.
What is going on? And then once again, it just seems like Lil Baby is just trying to be the feature on his own song, especially with that Travis Scott song, because immediately when you hear the instrumental on it, you think Travis Scott, and then you Lil Baby does his thing, and then Travis Scott does his thing, and it's like Travis Scott fits better on this beat than Lil Baby does. So it's like, what's
Yeah.
the point of putting this song on your album as Lil Baby? It doesn't make sense to me. Outfit, the only reason why I like Outfit is because of 21 Savage's verse. That verse by 21 Savage is probably one of the best verses on the album, and at the same time, one of the most basic 21 Savage verses I've heard in
Yeah.
a while. And that's
Yeah.
crazy to
Yeah.
think about.
It seems like it's kind of built around that like one line, like I'm gonna bring the Drake with me and it won't be any kung fu. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It feels like, and I get it. Like, you know, I'm just so done with that whole situation where
yeah.
it's like, all right, like, yeah, we get it. It's like unless someone's gonna like actually like talk about it and like bring it up, like I don't need any like one bars. It's like we're like alluding to the beef that happened last year, right?
Yeah.
Do you like drugs talking?
Yeah, I like. I'll tell you which songs I put in a playlist. I might give Listen Up a benefit of a doubt, but I haven't put that in the playlist. I put Dumb and Dumber just because of Young Thug and Future. I put I Promise because that's the most passionate I hear Lil Baby B on this album. I put By Myself because I for the reasons I already mentioned,
Yeah.
and I put Outfit, Drugs Talking, and then Streets Colder, and that's it.
Yeah, like I think Drugs Talking and Streets Colder. I think, like I said, the first two songs, I think I really like Listen Up because you kind of have like a little like militaristic beat on that where
Hmm.
kind of sounds like it's almost like that old school like military drummer like
Yeah.
situation like on the production, and it's like that's inspiring, right? That got me when I heard that I was like, oh, Lil Baby's like gonna like kill on this album, right? And then you get back into like a old way of doing things, but then in Dumb and Dumber, I mean, Thug's verse is like why I'm there, right? I think
Hmm.
that we haven't heard like Young Thug that clearly in a long time,
Yeah.
like where he's just like it's just his voice and it's not like you know all the crazy shit that he usually does,
Hmm.
which makes Thug Thug. And then I get all the way down to like you said, Outfit. Like I was excited for 21, but like you said, it's good, but it is relatively like straightforward. And then Drugs Talking is like very melodic, and it's also like that. It's almost like futury in a sense,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Where it's like not just the subject matter of drugs talking, but like it feels like it. And then Streets Colder feels like this conversation that me and you have had. He knows it's happening, right? And he's like, I gotta do something about it. But then you like, it's like, but
You just
did you?
gave us 15 tracks of you basically not doing anything about it.
And I think the thing is when you go listen to his interviews, I think it's like I think that's just like almost who he is, right? He's like, I'm not giving you what you want. Like it's like and there's part of me that's like when you have that context, there's part of me that like doesn't even get upset about it because he told you what the deal was, right? It's
Hmm.
not like, and I think that's the difference between him and Roddy Rich is I think Roddy Rich will like have these projects and be like, no, this is the one. You know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
is the one. And then you hear it and you're like, I don't know if that's the one. Lil Baby is almost like, yeah, I know what you want, I know what I should do, but like I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep making money and taking care of what I need to take care of, which like, and that's the reason why it's hard for me to like get upset about it because it's like it's kind of what I expected.
But at the same time,
It
like
doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean I
like
think
yeah, no,
highly.
I get you. But like you're an artist. What you're supposed to be taking care of is your artistic growth.
I know,
That's
but
what's going to pay the bills. That's what's going
he's
to make
also
sure that you're
he's a money
able to
maker.
continue making money. So like that's like that within itself is kind of oxymoronic, where it's like,
But the money's still gonna come. You know it is.
but it could come. But if you really are trying to make money, you're going to
Yes.
do the thing that guarantees you're going to make the most money, and that would be you growing as an artist.
Well, and that's what like Drake has been great at for a very long time. You
21
know what I
Savage
mean?
too.
Absolutely. Like those like the people who are really and you know it's so hard, man, because I like Lil Baby so much, right? So it's hard for me to be like, nah, like whatever. But like I think there's paths to choose when you are at the level, and then if you don't, you get stuck, right? You
Yeah.
get stuck at a point, and it's like it's unfortunate, but it's just how it is.
Playback value really quickly, and then final thoughts.
Yeah. So playback value for me, there's four songs in here that I'm definitely coming back to. So I'll give on the strength of those songs, I'll give it like a month. But I like we do have we do have other albums coming that we know, so I'll give it a month. Like you said, the internet really doesn't like this album. I think that Dumb Dumb and Dumber will have staying value, so I'll give 2 weeks,
Yeah.
like overall playback value.
For
My
me,
Yeah,
playback value, I probably say objectively 2 weeks. I think this is the end of it though. I think that this is the end of Lil Baby getting a benefit of the doubt from like casual hip hop fans. I think they're gonna listen to this and they're gonna be like, oh, okay, you're just gonna keep doing the same thing over and over again. And the next album, he's not gonna get that benefit of the doubt. So just off the strength of his name being as big as what it is, I'm giving it 2 weeks. Subjectively, it's 1 week. And honestly, it's probably not even that because there are songs that I like here and I barely even like them in the first place. I'm gonna go back and listen to the songs that I love off of Eternal Take Two instead, or the songs that I like off of Last Lap instead, or the songs I like off of GNX instead, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah.
So yeah, final thoughts.
Final thoughts is kind of what I've been saying like the whole time. I think that Lil Baby was on the path, or at least had the hype and the support to become one of the biggest rappers like in the world, one of the best rappers in the world, and that has stalled out. And I can't quite tell if that's on purpose or not. And that's like my final thought is that I can't tell if this is like a intentional or unintentional like slowing of the
Mhm.
process. Favorite songs, I like Drug Talking the most, Dumb Dumb and Dumber 2, mostly off the strength of that Thug verse, and then Listen Up would be my number 3.
Yeah. For me, I would say my last thoughts are Lil Baby does very little on Wham to beat the allegations that he fell off. Lil Baby tries to change a couple of things on the margins throughout, but ultimately it's not enough to make this album feel like it was worth a 2.5 year wait. My top three tracks, number one, I Promise, number two, So Sorry, and number three, By Myself. That being said, thank you for tuning in to episode 600 of the Cat Podcast. Don't forget to leave your opinion of Wham by Lil Baby in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow Old Milk on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Old Milk Media. Check out oldmilk.co for more information. I'm Nate Sperlin, that's Taylor McLeod, and we'll be back when hip hop tells us to be. We are out. Thank you for watching.
I say, gang.